done a really nice job as chair. So please welcome Ms. Sally.
And wow, it's so great to see young faces and the parents of young faces. So you guys don't have to stand up, don't continue on, you can enjoy yourselves while you're here. I want to welcome you, Cobb County GOP. The Cobb County Republican Party, as you probably know, is the largest Republican party in the state of Georgia. So that is something that I am extremely proud to serve. And serving is the one thing that I think sometimes politicians forget to do. Not the ones in this room, they're serving by being here today. But I want everyone to remember that we are here to serve people, and I want to serve the people of Cobb County and the state of Georgia in our country in promoting the principles of the Republican ideals of freedom and what our country was founded upon in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. So I want you to know, young people, that we need to have a room about 10 times the size for all the young people who should be involved. And what I'm going to ask for you to do is to help us help you. I am a big advocate of young people. I have 2 sons who are now grown. One is about to be 24, and the other one is 34. And I'm about to be a grandmother. And so one of the struggles that we have is how are we going to educate this new life that is coming into the world? Because the schools are failing us, and I believe that the schools have failed you and your peers. And the only way that we can right what is going on in our country is with your help, because it's your future, and it's your long-term goals and objectives that we want to see fulfilled. The only way that we can help you do that is for you to teach us, you young men on the front row, you're a handsome-looking bunch, and I'm sure you have great influence in your schools. And I want to know where you're in school that you can have the Republican Party partner with you. Figure this is a great task that you've taken on, and I think that it's the start of a very long and beneficial journey for you in the party. But you guys need to teach us, what do you need? What can we help you do? And parents, point us in the direction of conservative-friendly schools and districts, so that we can help grow, and then hopefully maybe we can drag some other less conservative school districts and schools with us. Because the cause of freedom is at stake here. I don't think that civics classes are being taught like they need to be taught. When I was in high school, which was in the 80s, you know, we were having a good time in school, right? And at least I was having a good time in school. But one of the things that I loved was my civics class, and I had a civics teacher who made sure that we knew our foundation. And without a firm foundation in God and country, this country is doomed. And so you have got to band together with your friends. And, you know, I live in the city of Marietta, and we had one brave young soul who painted his parking spot and let them paint their parking spot at the beginning of the school year. Last year, he painted his parking spot in honor and recognition of President Trump. And how long do you think it was before that portion got canceled? It was about a nanosecond. And somebody went there and painted over his spot was Black Lives Matter. And then it became a whole issue. Then it becomes, well, what are we going to allow? What are we not going to allow? Well, I taught my children that as long as you are on the right side of God and country, I will always support you. And so one day I got a call, I was at work, and not to bring religion into it, and I'm going to bring religion into it. The teacher was teaching a particular thing in the classroom, and my son said, that's not right. And he called me, and he texted me from school, and he said, well, I'm headed to the principal's office. But what did you do? And he told me what he did. And I said, I'll be right there. So I got to the school, and I met him on the hall, and we sat in the principal's office, and that day we sat and educated the teacher on the issue that was at hand. I won't go into it, but if you want to know later, I'll tell you. And so my son was empowered that day to always stand up for what's right, and I want to empower you young people to always stand up for what's right, and you parents to always defend your children when they're standing up for what's right. So with that, I will turn it back over to Cooper and just say thank you for being here And next year, the next convention, the one thing I want to stress is the college GOP is always open to young people. So let's get people in here, whatever you want to do. If you want to have a pizza party, have a special speaker, whatever you want to do, you can count on the college GOP to be here for you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sal. That's probably going to take you up. Next, our speaker would be the chairman of the Young Republicans, Andrew Abbott, but he actually got sick, so he cannot be able to make it to put that time to elsewhere. However, I would like to invite a senator that was kind enough to show up today, and now he's making a run for labor commission. We're really happy to have him. Senator Bruce Thomas.
Thank you, Cooper. Thank you, everyone, for coming out today. I want to say I've got Hannah here as well. Lewis is back right now. He's running his GOP event in Bartow County. Let me just say this. You've heard the story before. Lead, follow, or get the blank out of the way. Right? We've heard it. Some of you heard it, right? Come on, man. We've got to be engaged here. Yes or no?
Yes, yes, we have.
That's where our party is. For years, we have dismissed the young people in our group. It's been a certain age group. We can no longer do that. We can no longer dismiss people that want to be engaged. And I applaud the team for being vibrant and willing to dedicate time to be able to say this matters. It matters. It matters not just for me, but it matters for your future. And it's my opinion, people are tired of hearing rhetoric and excuses, and so many other reasons why this happens, or that happens, or we lose this, or we lose that. People are sick of it. They're sick of hearing people say things as if it's truth, and it's not. The good thing about young people, they're willing to research it. And we got to applaud you for that. Let me tell you a quick story. I was a wrestler in college. I grew up in a very challenging environment that some of you may be able to relate to. Some may not. I use it on a regular basis. Some grew up with a silver spoon. I grew up with a plastic fork. My mom married 5 times. She married the same kind of abusive alcoholic individual. I'm a byproduct of her being gang raped. I don't say that as an excuse. I say it to stand here as a senator that chairs economic development around our state and go, if you're willing to put the effort in, we still live in a country where you can rise to the top. Stop making excuses for why we are. Is it hard for some? Of course it is. Might be harder for some of you in this room. But let me move to the wrestling story real quick. I was pretty accomplished in sports, and in wrestling, I was getting ready to go to the finals. And if you've ever wrestled, you know that they have a towel. It's called a towel boy or a towel girl. And they come out and hit you when you get to the end of the match. I could have sworn I heard the buzzer. You get 14, 15, and 1 or something like that. And I rolled on my back and I got beat. 2 seconds left, I got hit. I had to wrestle. But not only back then did your coach lay hands on you, so I learned that lesson when we got to the locker room. But the biggest lesson was we do not quit until the end. Now, a lot of things happen in the election. We can blame a lot of people, but every one of you are in the room right now. In Georgia, I promise we'll lose every single football game if you quit it out. You hear me? We have to be engaged. Regardless of what's going on with the elections, we made some big strides in the last election bill, but we have to fight to the end. Let me transition to why I bring this up. We currently have a labor commissioner, 11 years he served, going on his 12th year. This agency is so broken that the previous Governor Deal, the administration, stripped away workforce development and put it in TCSG. It's not just the pandemic. Back to the matter is, when you look at GPP, they just put out an article. $6.6 billion of your money is paying leases on empty buildings right now. Your money. And we have to change that. We're better than that as a public. So I've offered myself up for Department of Labor. Quickly, there are 3 things I'll do, and I'll tell you what the Department of Labor does. Number 1 is we should make sure we have relationships with the General Assembly. I got 125 current and former elected officials. Number 2 is got to modernize. You get this as young people. Some of the older people don't understand this. You need to use technology. Several states want to modernize their Department of Labor. You're taking the cost from $16 a plan to $4. You make it easier to file a claim, and you eliminate most of the fraud. Right now, we're $1 billion in fraud being paid. The third thing is those empty buildings. That's not a workforce problem, guys. That's a leadership problem. What am I looking to do right now? I'm looking to make sure that the Department of Labor does exactly what you hired them to do. That's workforce development. So young people can have an opportunity, so that veterans coming back can have an opportunity, so prison people that are incarcerated out on probation can have an opportunity, and so seniors, if maybe jobs have left them, we can still take the gas that they have in the tank and have an opportunity. 8 years in a row, we're the #1 place in the country to do business, but the Department of Labor is undermining that right now. I don't apologize for coming hard, because you hire us to do a job. We can go have a beer, or a glass of wine, or whatever, and enjoy it, but when it's time to be on the job, it's time to be on the job. So I'm Bruce Thompson, I'm running for the Department of Labor, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you, Senator Thompson. That's a great speech. Our next speaker would be Marjorie Taylor Greene. Traffic has gotten a little backed up, so she'll be here around 1 o'clock. So we'll just schedule around that. Moving on past that, we have a woman who's running for Georgia governor. She's going to have a good day. We invited everybody on that. But we're really glad to have her here today. She's going to give a great message about her platform. Please help me welcome Dr.
So I've been a little under the weather, y'all can tell by my voice, but I will try to talk loud so y'all can hear me. In Genesis 1:26, the Trinity, before they created man, they were starting on the throne and they said, let us create man in our image. And they each take dominion of the earth. Dominion is for us to take. It's funny how the devil likes to pervert things of God and doing a voting system called dominion that hijacked our election and caused the greatest crime in America that's ever been committed on the earth. But Jesus is king. And we will get praising audit of Georgia. We will. Not me. Somebody messaged me today from another state and said, yes, I think you're single-handedly getting this audit. I said, no, I am not even close. The people of Georgia are getting this audit. The people of Georgia are making demands. I'm just willing to listen to them because I know what the Constitution says about the will of the people. I know when our representatives, our senators, swear an oath of office to uphold the will of the people, that's what they have to do. The Constitution is the highest law of our land. And the Constitution is from the bottom up, not from the top down. This government belongs to the people. And we will not allow our state to be hijacked with fraud. We will not allow it. Last year I ran for U.S. Senate and I went to all 159 counties in Georgia. And I'm going to tell you, Georgia is conservative. Georgia is red. It's not purple, and it sure as heck is blue. It is red. We know that. And we're not going to stand here and buy into the fact that people are saying, well, it's okay. We'll just vote next time. No, it's okay. Yeah, we're going to vote next time. Stronger than we did last time, but not on dominion. We're going to vote on paper ballot because we the people want it. And it's our government. And our elected officials swore an oath that we could change, alter, or abolish our government whenever we see fit. That's in the Constitution they swore to uphold. I know what the Constitution says, and the people are learning, and they're learning how to enact it with affidavits and with notices. And last Friday, I filed for a grand jury in Cobb County, because this county has so much fraud, it is enough to overturn our whole state. I didn't do that. A team of patriots called Project Opal pulled together thousands of tabular tapes and ballot sheets and started analyzing it and found out we were missing 7,700 votes. We had 168,000 breaches of chain of custody from early voting. And when the Secretary of State did the risk limiting audit, it's on his website, and he said it was 0.73 margin of error. Cobb County was missing 250,000 votes. I didn't make the numbers up. They're black and white. They're right there. They're not my numbers. I'm just not scared to say it. We cannot live in fear. We have to have faith over fear. And do you know who's the strongest people in our state who don't fear? Teenagers. Y'all are bold. You are brazen. You haven't been corrupt other people to tell you what you can't do. You still have a passion and a hope for what you can do. And I'm telling you, I know from watching my friend Marjorie Taylor Greene win 50,000 door knocks from teenagers. And I know what gains I made in my Senate race from thousands of door knocks from teenagers. You may not be voting yet, but your voice is more powerful than your parents. Cooper said the other day, and I think it was profound, he said, and not to me, I read it. He said, and I just said it on the little show, he said, my parents are influenced by what I believe. My parents didn't make me do this. They're influenced by what I believe in, because he does the research, like senators and talks with them. They do the research. They get the information, and they put it in practice. And so I want to encourage you today, your voice matters. It matters a lot. Georgia is in the Bible Belt. We are Christians. We love Jesus. We love guns, and we love babies. And we're going to protect our Second Amendment. We're going to have constitutional hearing in our state. If there's a promise that to happen, it's going to happen. Georgia wants it. And it's going to happen. We're also going to take a heartbeat bill further. I'm thankful for what he did with the heartbeat bill. Praise the Lord, he did what he did. It needs to go farther than what it is. We're going to take it farther than what it is. Georgia is conservative. Don't ever let anybody tell you different. Because if they're telling you different, they're lying to you. We will have change. But we cannot move on to 2022 or 2024 until we fix 2020. And the reason why I'm pushing so hard for an audit is because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And if I stand up here and tell you, I'm going to forgive or vote for me, and I don't push for friends and audit, I'm claiming to make a noise. Because in reality, it won't be me who wins. No matter if you won't win. And I don't care who you want to win. But whoever that is, that's who's going to win. That's how our country was established. It was established for the people, by the people. And we have ballots on paper with thumbprint recognition, and we can count everyone. Whoever wins every seat, we will accept it, we will embrace it, and we will move forward because we will know it's fair and legal. This other mess that's going on has got us in an uproar, and we're not going to be quiet. We're not. We lost hope after the inauguration. But when Arizona got their audit, our hope came back. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. We've got heart sick. Now, we're mad as fire, not backing down. Cobb County jury met Thursday, and they won't give me the answer. I think it's because the answer is yes, because they're evidence. That's okay. Because we're doing that in about a week or two. We're busy to do another grand jury in another county this week. We're going to get a forensic audit if it's without the General Assembly because they can't do it because all these excuses they made me. Or if it's because we can't get it done with the court system because they make all these excuses, then we'll just do it with the people's jury and the grand jury. That's how our Constitution was set up to work anyway. It's fine with me. I don't care how it happens, and I don't care who gets the credit for it. I want to audit in Georgia. morality over money in this state.
All right.
Morality over Hollywood, morality over China, morality over money and power of our elected officials. The ones, there's great patriots on them. But there are some that only care about themselves. And we will not stand for it anymore. Georgia will put morality over money every single time. My name is Candace Taylor. I'm the one you've been waiting for.
All right. Oops.
That's exactly right. We have to take our state back, and that's part one, we're fixing our voting problem, and two, our. Next is a guy that I met last week. He worked for Secretary of State, and honestly, he blew me away with everything. I'm really glad to have you here, and please help me welcome TJ Hudson.
How y'all doing today? So when everyone asks me, where are you from? Cooper's mom actually said, the redneck cowboy. I love that. I'm TJ Hudson. We're in Truman County. It's down south. From Vide is the devil. Born and raised there. Went off to college, got a degree in criminal justice, came back and started working for former sheriff there. I refer to him as my father. So whenever we walk in, he never carried a gun. He was a big guy. But whenever we walk in anywhere, they just look at us and they're like, there's walking for bed. So this hat is not a gimmick. The boots is not a gimmick. This is what I do. I'm not this. So he was the one that actually asked me to run for public judge. I'm a former judge. I served for 17 years as a judge, a probate judge and a magistrate court judge, and also an election judge. Where I'm from, I'm a minority, so I've always been keen to ask the underdog. So what my father told me, he said, keep that up, go out and every day. I did that. Even people that didn't live in Truman County, I would say, well, because they might have known someone. So I won my first election by 55 votes. Two others that went to. So, like I said, hard work, that doesn't bother me. I'm a Christian, I'm hard working. I believe in no sir, yes ma'am, that's who I am. So, as president, my peers selected me to be president of all the public organizations. One of my tasks was to visit all 169 counties. So, they told me, there's no way you can do that. I did it in 37 counties. So when you tell me I can't do something, you telling me that.
All right.
Right now, the Londons have me considered the underdog. Well, let me show you. Look where about every one of these candidates. Look because I'm coming. I've never been in trouble with that. He is our future. These young people are. I love him. I mean, I can't speak enough about it. Whenever I was 15, I wouldn't think about getting politics. I mean, I was still playing the guitar, you know. So you're an inspiration. I can't say enough about it. And that goes for all of them. Like I said, y'all ever call me, y'all ever need me, I will always be there. Let me tell you a little story. I think I told this last week. I was watching a car accident. I'm an early bird rider. I get up at 5:30. That accident occurred December 7th, 27th. So I went to pick up my uncle. We had to go to a farm, get some supplies. I was at work in the shop. Brought him off. I couldn't get to my office around 7. The reason I did, my mom is still that. You should always read your Bible. I read my Bible every day. That particular morning, I was running late. Parked car in my lane, traffic. I was
you got smoke. That's a lot of people. I said, I drive like this man. So, that particular morning, I saw the big stuff, and I think I was on my right, because I was on the past, looked to the left. First, past, right. So we had to get on the list. The impact was so hard that I thought I was actually still traveling towards my office, but in reality, I was traveling back towards my house, and she was traveling back from the direction. So I did remain confident with the sheriff's department program with it. The young lady was texting my drive. So whenever the sheriff got there, they got me to the ambulance. I said, hey, this so they found her phone right here. So working as a judge, whenever he came in and said, TJ, we can take you out. Yeah. Takes on my drive this phone here. So my left foot was broke. My left heel was broken. My right foot was shattered like the last. Doctors told me he would never walk. There he is.
But,
so a year and a half later, 7 surgeries later, I'm standing, I'm walking. I'm going to emergency court. The reason I'm going to do it is because I have to treat it. I'm genuinely enjoying it. If I tell you that I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. You can make laws all day long. You got to have somebody that's going to for my business. And say you're going to cheat on my watch, I'll show you. So that's why I'm going to TJ Hudson, TJ for any ever needed something. Thank you.
Next, this is a guy that I've met just briefly, really, and he's actually the only Republican candidate running for mayor of Atlanta. And so we're welcoming him with open arms today, and he's a part of GMC, he's a part of us. Running this really high office. So please help me welcome Devontae Sullivan. We're going to have a message for everyone. A little bit about me. I was my grandmother October 13th. Ever since then, I was homeless for 8 years. I had nowhere to stay. I wanted to go to the foster care system, but they didn't want to take me. So I lived house to house, in the home, taking I graduated from high school. I've always had doubt. People always doubt that I was brought back. I was going to be. I was never going to be. These people were teachers, some old principals in high school. So I kept that in. I said, but you don't read what you're supposed to do. I believe that. I believe in Jesus. My faith is stronger than my faith. I believe my struggle is my strength to build character, build life. That's why I'm still standing here today. I had a few near-death experiences when I was on 40 out Washington a couple of times in Atlanta. I've experienced a lot, but I want to tell you, don't ever give up. Don't ever give up when your dream goes, because you're hearing the naysayers and hearing what other people tell you that that's for me. Because guess what? God has a plan and a purpose. Okay. It doesn't matter what they say or what they think, because they're not. You are you, and God created you with His own. Don't try to change for someone else and change who you are because of what they say. We have a lot of people now that are trying to teach. Not only young adults, but our teenagers as well in school. We're trying to teach them that they will never amount to anything. This is how the world works, and they're wrong. The world works is how you work it, because you make the choices made my choices.
All right.
So with God, and that's God to save me. I'm the first out of my family to graduate high school. I'm the first out of my family to ever attend Georgia military. Ever went to college. Majors criminal justice. First out of my family to ever be in the White House by President Trump. The first ever in my family to actually run for public office. And I will be the first in my family to say that I've made, I've won, and I will continue to strive to do my best to be the one.
All right.
And I want to say to you, everyone is doing our young folks, don't give up. Don't give up. Never give up. Don't ever give up your dreams. Don't ever give up your hopes. Don't ever give up the goals that you want to achieve, because you will win and you can do it with that help of God. Always put God first, no matter where you are, where you're staying, what your situation is. Always acknowledge Him, put Him first. No matter where you are, you know, how in the byway. I used to stay up under the bridge from my high school, St. Sarah High School. I used to go to school and take showers, and I change clothes there, still go to school. My motivation kept me alive. My motivation kept me in reality. Motivation was always have a purpose to prove these things. That was my motivation. And I've stayed in, and I will stay in this fight. I've had a dream about running for mayor of Atlanta 3 years ago. And that was when I was staying around 19 years old, 19 or 18. Then I asked God, are you sure? But that's probably. He had the same dream last year. You know what? I'm going to strive for greater. I'm going to strive for greater, because right now our country is at stake. And we have to fight for it. We are moments and years away from freedom being existent for all of us. We're trying to take away our freedom. We're trying to take away our life, living and pursuing happiness. We're trying to take away our constitution. We're trying to control the way we live, the way of living. We're trying to take away the American dream that we all strive for. But I say to you, don't give up. Don't give in. Never surrender. Because we are the future. We are the way of this world. And we are America. And we will do what Americans do, and that is to fight.
All right.
And we will fight with our last dying breath. We fought in World War I, we fought in World War II, we fought in Vietnam War, fought Korea War, fought Pearl Harbor, fought Desert Storm, fought the War on Terror. Now, this time, this is a fight for our American soil, a fight for our freedom and liberty.
All right.
And we will win, and we will prevail. As long as we stand united, together as one, and keep God first, we will prevail, no matter what. Because the teenagers that are sitting here now, all of them, we must fight for them, and we will fight. And they will fight for it. We're having now, the teachers are trying to teach children to hate each other as a basis of their skin color. I want to tell you that if you have that issue in school, you can tell your parents, speak up. See, I never had my father and my mother in my life. I had no one to speak up to or talk to. I'm telling you now, speak up. Speak to your parents. Tell them the issues that you're having. Make it known so that the parents, so you and your parents can take back to schools. So that way you can get the right education in our schools. Right now, Atlanta is a crime hub. It really is. It's dangerous. It's dangerous for a lot of people. It really is. I'm a law enforcement officer. I used to work with the Department of Juvenile Justice. I've seen a lot of children being arrested and put behind bars. More so because they give enough, because their parents. They lost faith. They lost their hope. But we will bring back that faith and hope together as one nation under God. And as I say to you, please don't give up this fight. Keep fighting. The world depends on it as Americans. Cuba depends on it. Venezuela depends on it. Haiti depends on it. South Africa depends on it. Every country across all the continents are dependent on
uphold freedom, because we're the only country that has the freedom that they have. And we shall preserve and protect the American freedom and the American freedom. We will not give up, we will not give in, we will never see. And Mr. Devontae Sullivan, I'll say now for your remain of a way.
We need good leadership in Atlanta, from what I've seen out there. Next is another candidate that I met recently. He's running for city district. And I've heard a lot of good things about him. I'd like to invite Mr. Jacob.
Thanks everyone for being here today. This is, as I like to say, what politics is all about. And most importantly, I want to thank the parents and the teachers for coming out today, because I remember when I was younger, I was a product of the wire system. I grew up going to bars. I grew up in University of Georgia, going to college Republicans. I was president of the Atlanta Young Republicans, and we grew that to become the largest Catholic country. But you guys are the future. And when everyone used to tell me, "Oh, I'm the future," I was like, "Yeah, whatever." I didn't think there was a reality to that, but there really is. And I also want to emphasize the importance of the parents. When I was younger, I didn't like to listen to what my parents told me and what the principles that they put forward. And I always push back. I will promise you, as you get older, you will learn to discover that your parents are right. And so it's important to learn that lesson sooner rather than later. So thank you guys for both of those facts. What's important to remember for everyone in this group of parents and the teenagers is our country is in danger. And if you look at what Joe Biden did to the American people, he gave us the ultimate bait switch. He campaigned on moderation. He campaigned on unity. He campaigned on bringing Americans together. And since he's been elected, he's done anything and everything but that. He has sought to divide us right out of the gate with critical race theory. As Devontae, would you say go? I want to make sure I get it wrong. Sullivan, okay.
Devontae.
As Sullivan, thank you for your courage to stepping up in that mayor's race. As he said, what the left is trying to do is they know they cannot be Republicans. Mono and mono. They have to define. And this has been a strategy that they have emphasized and utilized for decades on decades. So what do? They start at the beginning. They are starting at the earliest years of the future generations, which you guys are, by saying that there are two types of people. There are people that are oppressors and there are people that are oppressed. And that is anything but the truth. I will tell you, in my generation, and I'm a millennial, race wasn't a thing. I grew up with people that did not look like me, didn't talk like me, were from different parts of the country, and I didn't think anything about it. We played sports together, we went to class together, we grew up together, we're still lifelong friends together. And so they're fictitiously creating a reality which doesn't exist. And what I will tell you guys as teenagers is that as you chart your path forward, you will begin to see in college, it only gets worse. Our college and university systems now are complete and total indoctrination.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling someone earlier this story, I think it was you right here in the front, which I'll never forget. I took an economics class and we had to write a paper. And I wrote a paper talking about the principles of America that made America the greatest country on earth, which are free market, free enterprise principles, which engender creativity, which engender risk, which engender encourage hard work. And on this paper, I got a B. I was a very studious student. I went to the professor. I said, "How did I get a B on this paper? This seems completely and totally right." And the professor said, "Oh, it's fundamentally unsound because we need big government, socialistic principles in order to take America to become like the European nation." And that is exactly what Joe Biden and his administration are doing, which is they're trying to make America like the rest of the world. But we should be making the rest of the world like and that's a fact. But that burden doesn't stop with me, doesn't stop with any of the parents in the room, it stops with the team. You guys are the future of the country. And you guys are going to face an even more difficult country working than I faced or the generations before, because the liberals have gotten to a point where there are no boundaries. They will steal elections. They will hijack big tech. They'll hijack the media. They'll hijack our university system. And so what that has created is as conservatives, the only path forward is being fired. And every candidate that you guys have seen today, they're fired for the future. Some may be better than others, but the reality is they've got the courage to put themselves forward. And that's what each of you guys in this room are going to have to do. So I will briefly talk about me and my campaign, and then I would like, and I encourage all of the teenagers and parents to talk to me about kind of my experience through the YR system and what has created an opportunity for me to now run for office and all the benefits that it came. I grew up in Douglas County, Georgia, which is a suburb on the west side of Atlanta. I also went to the University of Georgia, a double dog UGA football fan. I love the University of Georgia right there for undergrad and law school. Started practicing law. I've had the privilege of representing many good clients over the years and been able to deliver very good results. I chaired the state ethics commission. And I didn't think about running for office until two very, very big things happened. And I felt now is the time for me to put myself forward in order to save this country from what radical left is trying to take us. First, last November, what happened with the election is something we all have to take very, very seriously, because that is what's endangering the Democratic Republic. Last November, we remember Sunday at 8 p.m., the County Fulton County stops county ballots. Well, why would you do that? That makes no sense if you want to encourage confidence in the process. Well, they did it because they know how many votes they needed to find in order to hit the margins they were at. And that's exactly what happened, because as we begin to see more and more votes come in day after day, they're going in 90-10 margins, the wrong direction for us, right direction for them. At that point, I think all of us were very, very concerned to do something that we do about it. Many of our legislators put themselves forward and try to create that. OTTU was passed, which limited the number of the issues, but when it went further, maybe, but it's a good step in the right direction. And then the second thing that happened was Joe Biden made the switch. And as we begin to look at our country, the border crisis, opening the borders, every time Democrats get in office, they do two things. They try to fundamentally change election law. That's through SR1, HR1, they're trying to get that through. And they open the borders because they think that both of those things will enable them to continue to win elections. They are, through hyper inflationary tactics, increasing the value of our monetary dollar. They're disincentivizing work. And so all of that is to say something had to be done to step up, to reinstate conservative principles and make this country great. And so what I'm telling people is I am selling and delivering to the American people. My campaign is a bold, unafraid, conservative campaign to create a revolution to retake America. It starts right here in Georgia. Sell, I created a little acronym to make it easier on me to remember it. Sell, which is security. We must get back to protecting national security, domestic security, and also security of the family. National security, first and foremost, we got to control the border. We've got to empower our military. If we look at what's happening right now in Cuba, in Israel. Countries don't respect America anymore. None of this happened under President Trump because countries knew there are consequences for action. And so we have to, as Ronald Reagan said, peace through strength, create a strong military, a strong president, country across the globe in respect. To domestic security, empowering and supporting our law enforcement. My cousin is actually a sheriff. He told me a story. He was in an active police pursuit. He was faced with a very difficult choice, he said. He said, either I continue this pursuit, potentially lose my job by a fake accusation that I'm pursuing someone on the basis of a skin color, which isn't true, which means I lose my livelihood. I can't put food on the table for my children. Or I can continue going on this pursuit and endanger myself and my future. And what did he do? He said, ultimately, a lot of police officers would just let people go. And that's the reason why we got to support and not defund our police officers. He is for education. As I spoke about earlier, we are facing that hyper-aggressive strengthening China. If China's goal at the end of the day is to take over is what's called the global hegemon, the most powerful nation on earth, without firing the bullet. Now, how are they trying to do this? They're trying to do it by what I said earlier, which is divide and conquer. We're doing it to ourselves with critical race theory. So in our schools, we have to stop that right out of the gate and eliminate any possibility that our youth, the future of our country, are viewing each other as X or O's, as Dr. Seuss's book said. School choice is a principle I think we need to push forward through voucher programs, which is moving the selection of schools from the federal government to the families and the children. My first goal is for liberty, personal liberty, economic liberty. We want to make sure and religious liberty. We want to make sure that individuals have the principal choice, not the federal government. And then my last goal is limited government intrusion, limited taxes, limited regulations. All of those principles are the principles that created this country, which is the shining beacon on the hill that Biden and the Democratic Senate and the Democratic Congress and the House are gradually eroding away those principles to, like I said earlier, make America like the rest of the world. We should be making the rest of the world. So with that, I thank all of you guys for coming. For the teenagers, keep doing it. You're going to see it takes courage. It's only going to get harder as you get older, but you guys are the future. I would love for you guys to get involved in Black Evening. I've got Chuck Stone, who is our grassroots operator, and he's in the back there. He's happy to talk to you guys. But Jake, my website is jakeevans.org. I think you guys will look forward to see you guys grow. You are the future of the country.
Jay. The next person I want to invite is another candidate for the 6th district. And I found out about him just a couple months ago, and I've been really inspired by his story as well. So please help me welcome Mr. Harold Earl.
Hey, let me tell you, it is very nice to be here with you all today. First off, super big thanks to you and everything you're doing. I mean, what makes me so excited to be here is that, you read the news, you look at the media, you look at social media, and they tell you that young people, that millennials like us, Gen Zers like you, shouldn't be conservative. That's not what we're seeing here today, right? That's not what we're seeing in our home, in Georgia, in our district. We have people our age, all ages that are motivated, that are fired up. They saw those things that happened in November and said, we have to do something about it. So it just brings me great joy, honestly, to be here with you. I want to share with you a few things. So one, who I am as a person, and then honestly, what led me to run. And ultimately, some of the issues that we're faced with today, both with our generations and in this country. I was born and raised in Rollins, not too far from here. I have 8 generations. offered to play baseball at West Point, and that started my military career in the military. We're in total, counting West Point, I served 9.5 years. Most recently, I had the opportunity to serve commander at the 2 Million Soldier.
Wow.
And I tell you, I feel humbled, honestly, just to have the opportunity. Every day, I got to see daily the best of this country. I would walk past 250,000 white headstones, 415 Medal of Honor recipients, 13 Supreme Court justices, President Kennedy, President Taft, the most decorated soldiers of all the wars, Sergeant Younger, Sergeant Artie Allen Morton, Captain Ivan C. Catello Jr., buried in Section 2. Each of them, a framework that created this country stands upon. And yet the very values and freedoms that they stood guarding, they died defending. I can look across and I can see the U.S. Capitol. Frankly, emblematic of elected officials facing those very values. I remember I reached a point, I was starting to know it was late at night. I remember looking out, I could see the U.S. Capitol, it was beckoning on the horizon, and here I was, this Army captain, standing on America's most hallowed ground. And I just felt angry. I felt angry. Honestly, like how we all felt in November. Because I got to see daily the best of this country, yet I looked right outside the wire and I saw such a different story. I would see World War II vets, and they would come in on wheelchairs, and they would stand and salute with all their might, tap heavens across the hills of Arlington. And yet I turn on the news and I hear our politicians or applauding players as they kneel as our national anthem echoes across American stadiums. Those same stars and stripes that I've knelt down and given to widows on behalf of the grateful nation. Now, they're being burned and spat on our streets. That was like, have we forgotten? Have we forgotten? My friend Scott Key etched those words. He saw our stars and stripes. Stand unwavering, as it was relentlessly counted by enemy fire. Have we forgotten my firefighters? Went up 100 flights of stairs into the flaming furnace to save fellow American lives. Or Todd Beavers. Let's roll as they stormed the cockpit of Flight 93. To the Marines in Iwo Jima, who made a human bridge across fields of barbed wire, do so that today we can have people like Lucy McBath, that guards and discourse folks prodding those who don't agree with us. Perhaps this is happening because we have weak leaders on both sides.
All right.
That are too focused on clamoring for power than they are for serving you. And I can tell you that will not be me. I will stand. I will lead. They mentioned we need a new generation of leaders that can take a stand, and I'm going to be that leader. I will take a stand for you. I will care for you and your family. I ended up being on the military specifically 2 months, but I couldn't see what was happening and not do something about it. So I did what everyone tells you to do. You start meeting with all the local officials. A lot of them are great. But I sat down with someone, I won't share the name because of where this is going, but I want you to listen. And especially the people my age and the teenagers here in the room, you'll probably experience this at some point in your life. I met with the state senator, we were getting breakfast. And I shared my heart with him. And everything that led me to run, much of what I shared with you just now. He was much older than me, much older than you guys. He looks at me and says, son, I understand you want to make a difference in life. But this is the boys' club, you need to sit down and wait your turn.
Ooh.
Right?
I heard it. I heard it. I was told that.
The problem with politics today that we have people that feel entitled to your vote. They feel entitled to your support. They feel entitled to everything, not doing anything to earn it. Well, that's not going to be me.
All right.
Frankly, I think we need a new generation of strong conservative leaders.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't think he knows you very well. I don't think he knows me very well. I don't think he knows his country very well. Because let me tell you something. George Washington was 21 years old when he first got his commission in the United States military. Abraham Lincoln was 22 years old when he first ran for public office. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence when he was 33 years old. There were 12 other signers on that declaration when they were under the age of 35 years old. James Madison, 25 years old at the time, being one of them. Thomas Edison was 29 years old when he created the phonograph. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were in their 30s when they landed on the moon. Let me tell you something. This country was created in part because of the passion and vigor behind them. Frankly, the ordinary people, when they believe in something, when they believe in this country, they can go out and do great things. And that's what I want to leave with you today. I want to leave with you a story, and I want you to listen close because it's the moment when I realized I needed to run and I needed to do something about it. Every Memorial Day, the president comes and reads the tomb. And then afterwards, they'll read a speech. It's a part of tradition is the sentinels are getting ready to go out. They're standing there getting ready. We're taking them off, making them look just perfect. We play the speeches, previous speeches. From Reagan, Bush, Carter. That gentleman, Reagan, mentioned a soldier by the name of Private Treptow. So I did some reading on him. He's buried under one of those headstones. Private Treptow was shipped out on the Western Front with a famed Rainbow Division. And so there, this young private, 18, 19 years old, was tasked to carry the message between the towns. And so the young private pulls out his journal, he writes down the information, he heads out on his way. And as he's making his way across enemy lines, he makes his final dash to the friendly troop line. And he's struck down and killed with enemy fire. So the friendly commander, he pulls him down to the trench line. And he discovers his journal. And on the inner fly leaf, it says, "My pledge," and I want you to listen. It says, "America must win this war. Therefore, I will work. I will save. I will sacrifice. I will fight cheerfully, do my utmost, as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone. As if the issue of the whole struggle, everything I had felt that night, guarding depended on me alone. As if the issue of what you felt that night on election depends on us now to solve. As if the issue of what we talked about with critical race theory being taught in our schools, being taught to my kids. I have 3 young boys that are going to be going to school, and we're teaching them these days. As if the issue of what we're seeing at our borders and not securing our borders, the issue and the threat that China poses to our country, all of those issues, who are we not to live and lead and serve as Private Treptow did? Because if I know one thing about this country, it's that each time when we are at our darkest hour, a new generation has risen up. Ordinary people like you and me can change this country if we believe in it enough. So I tell you, we are making serious momentum in this campaign. We've raised more money than any other candidate raised so far. Raised $331,000 in 90 days. And the hope is that this isn't a race just to elect Harold Earls to become congressman here in Georgia. Frankly, the goal is to create a movement. The goal is to create something that we can get behind, something that we believe in. We're going to need your help to do it. It's funny, I think when you look at Republican races, they often try to just raise a bunch of money. They make TV ads, and frankly, aren't very good. But they don't do anything on the ground.
Right.
And I tell you, that's where I can use it. The goal, yes, we're raising money, yes, we're going to make some compelling ads. But what really wins races are people like you sitting that are fed up, that are fired up, and that want to get involved. That are willing to stand on the street corner. That are willing to knock on the door or write a handwritten note. That's what wins elections. I would love to get you involved in my campaign. All right, so I'm going to give you my personal cell phone number. I'd love for you to call your phone. I'm going to give you my cell. You can shoot me a text, and I'll be sure to text you back. It's 770-835-5410. I just want to write it down because I plan on being your next congressman. But I'd love to get you involved. That's 770-835-5410. You can also go to my website. It's earls.org. You can see more about what I stand for and who I hope to be. There's also a card. If you look at Jamie right here, he's got a card as well that has QR codes on the back. I appreciate you. We're going to make this thing happen, but we're going to do it together. I'm Harold Earls, and I'm running for Congress.
So I've got some exciting news to pick up with the radio schedule after this, but we have Congressman Martin here right now. So we will be bringing her up next week. We're really excited to get that. Just come out and see her.
you, everyone. Thank you, Cooper. I have to tell you guys, Cooper worked so hard helping me get elected, and so did so many others, many teenage Republicans. So I'm always so grateful for everything they do and proud, very proud of you and everyone here. Thank you for having me today. I tell you what, Georgia Teenage Republicans, this is an extremely important group because you have a big, big future ahead of you. And the reason why you have a big future ahead of you is because, unfortunately, the people behind you, let's see, have failed your generation. Congress has failed your generation. And that is something that I'm constantly upset over. I have 3 children also. They're ages 23, 21, and 18. And I'm disgusted at what our country is becoming for the future of our children and for your future as well. All of you guys are just coming off of an incredible year where you had your schools shut down, your activities shut down. You may have lost your jobs. People lost their homecoming, proms, sports, graduation. And this is an outrage because of Dr. Anthony Fauci, who used American tax dollars through a third party and funded the getting of research in the Wuhan lab, which helped a virus that was spread between animals turn into some sort of monster virus, like Dr. Frankenstein virus that spread between humans. And this is what has caused sickness all over the world and deaths because of COVID-19. If you saw the Senate hearing this past week with Rand Paul, thankfully, he's exposing Dr. Fauci's lies. And we are so grateful for that, and that's going to continue. I introduced the Fire Fauci Act back in April, and I'm grateful for my co-sponsors. We're adding co-sponsors every single week because the truth is this. Dr. Anthony Fauci lied. His emails have shown the truth, and because of his lies and his involvement in this terrible virus, it has ruined the lives of so many. And unfortunately, ruin your lives when you're young and just starting. That angers me because that affected my children too. Every single one of my kids lost their jobs. They lost their school, they had to go home. This isn't fair to your generation. It's not fair. Now we have the Biden administration that's making it very difficult for our country to rebound and recover. All of their policies are hurting our economic recovery. Just now, this past week in Washington, I just got back yesterday. Do you know what the big talk is about? Bringing back the mask mandate. Talking about shutting down again. Telling businesses that they have 2 choices. 1, to either shut down because cases are rising, or 2, force all of their employees to take a vaccine that's not FDA approved and they may not want to take. This is where we are now. This is going to hurt our economic recovery, and what does that do for young people? It hurts your chances to grow your future and start out your adult life. This is a major problem. The Democrats are not an American party. They are a party of communism. I used to call them socialists, but once I've been in Washington, D.C., I'm reading their bills every single week, understanding and listening to what they are saying. I don't call it socialism anymore. I call it communism. The same kind of communism that we're seeing in Cuba is also the same kind of communism that is taking over the state of California. Well, just 2 weeks ago, when I went for a trip there to have an America First rally with Matt Gaetz, we were canceled at 4 venues. This is how the radical left works. They silence you, they threaten you, they harass you, they intimidate you until they can cancel you completely. That's communism. That's what China does to their people. They silence them. If people in China disagree with the CCP, the communist government, what do? They silence them. They make their life difficult. They may end up throwing them in jail like political prisoners, or putting them in some kind of facility like they do with Muslims over in China. This is communist behavior, and this is the same behavior we're seeing from the Democrats. This is not the type of government that we want in place for our children's future. This is not the kind of government that's going to help you achieve and live your American dream. And all of us should be not just concerned, we should be outraged. Outraged to the point where you become activists. I don't mean violence, I mean activists. And activism is not put on social media and complaining about things or complaining to your family and friends that you feel safe talking to because you know they're Republicans. Activism is getting involved and stepping up at a different level. Activism is calling your elected officials, no matter if they're Republican or Democrat, and telling them you're the taxpayer and what you want. It doesn't involve harassment, it doesn't involve cussing, it involves you taking this on in a professional manner and making your voices heard. Because here's the deal, everyone. If you are a working adult and you are paying taxes, the government works for you. And you have to remind the government that people like me that are elected, you pay my salary. You pay for the buildings, you pay for the light bills, you pay for the government. And when the good people in this country, the patriots, step up and remind our government, our Congress, our Senate, our federal government, your city, your county, your state, remind them of who you are and refuse to back down. Do not be silent. Then they'll start listening to you. Because I'll tell you something about politicians. They care about donations, they care about bad articles, and they care about votes. So you have all the power, and this is what I keep spreading this message. You have the power. And adults in this room, it is our responsibility to be vocal and be activists for these kids right here in this room. Because let's talk about the kids in this room. They're already being activists, aren't they?
Yes.
They are. Now, they shouldn't be looking at their future right now, wondering, will they have gun rights? Will they have free speech? Will they have the ability to start a business? Or will they have to think about taking a government job like AOC's Antifa jobs program that she wants to put in place called the Climate Corps? There shouldn't be choices like that for our kids. There shouldn't be choices like that for teenage Republicans. They should only be thinking about finishing high school, making good grades, their activities, their sports, hanging out with their friends. They should be thinking about what college they want to go to and how they plan on paying for it, whether it's with a scholarship or they're going to work, or maybe they're going to a trade school and what kind of trade they want to learn. These are the choices they should be thinking about. They shouldn't be worrying about the fact that we're going to be shut down because of COVID-19, a man-made virus that Dr. Fauci is very much responsible for. They shouldn't be worried about a wide open border where nearly 200,000 people are coming across the border invading our country, and we have an administration that could care less. These aren't the things these kids should be worrying about. They shouldn't be worried whether skin color is now going to become an issue again in a great country like ours, where we have overcome racism. You see, we have achieved so many things, and we should be grateful for our achievements. We should remember the good words of Martin Luther King, where he said, judge people by their character and not the color of their skin. But yet we have critical race theory being shoved into school, where they're trying to say that simply because you're born a certain skin color, you're inherently racist. They're training children to be racist. We also shouldn't worry about our children being taught that there's no such thing as gender. But that's what the Democrats declared on my first day of Congress on January 3rd, when I was sworn into the 117th Congress, and Nancy Pelosi had it written in the rules that there's no such thing as male and female. You see, the outrage of that is evil because it's a direct attack on God's creation.
Right.
Because in Genesis, it tells us that God created man and woman. In his image, he created us. But yet, Congress, the Democrat-controlled Congress, has directly attacked God's creation and declared there is no gender. That's why you see everything coming out of Washington is completely evil. It disgusts me every single day. Our kids shouldn't be taught this in schools. There should not be a sexual agenda for elementary school, middle school, high school. But that's what the Democrats want. And you see, back in California 2 weeks ago, the Democrats want our entire country to be like California. And that is a very scary reality. Because in California, Republicans are defeated. They don't have a voice. They get canceled every single day. And when they want to make their voices heard, the radical left descends on them in horrible ways. They attack their businesses. They attack their reputation. They attack everything about them from people all over the country to the point where everyone gives in and they give up and they're canceled. It's a terrible way to live. But it also taught me a little lesson. I realized why Nancy Pelosi is so unapologetic in the way she holds the gavel and reigns in Congress. She's used to being able to cancel Republicans. And that's what she has done to us since January 3rd. She led the Democrats to kick me off my committees and I did nothing wrong. And then you just saw this past week, they kicked Jim Jordan and Jim Bates on the January 6th committee. That's an outrage. It shows you that this is nothing but a sham investigation meant to target President Trump, target Republicans in Congress like me that objected to Joe Biden's electoral college votes, and then worst of all, to target you, because that's what they really want. They want to intimidate you to think where you think you could never say to the government, I disagree. You're doing something wrong. That's what this setup is all about. Well, teenage Republicans, I have something for you. You know, the great thing about young people is you're brave and courageous. And that is a wonderful gift from God. And I'll tell you why. It takes a lot of courage to start out in life. It really does. It takes a lot of courage to go into the adult world and try new things and walk into a room and be brand new and learn something new or earn a position or get a new job or make your place on the team. Those are hard things, but God gives you courage. I'm going to ask you something. Hang on to your courage. Hang on to your courage, because when I go to Washington, D.C., I take with me courage, and my courage comes from my faith in our Creator. Because I know this, God is bigger than all of them. And with our faith in God, we can accomplish all things, no matter how big and scary the enemy is. So while things look dark and bleak and we aren't sure what's going to happen, this you can know, this you can trust. God loves you. He has your best interest in heart. And he loves all of us, and he does not want evil to win. As a matter of fact, he will never allow it. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep fighting. I'm fighting for you every single day. And you have my promise because, like I said, I'm a mom. My kids are right around your age. And that means there's nothing I will not do for your future and for my children too. Thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you, Congresswoman. With that, she does have to leave, but I'd like to call up every team here to come up, we're going to get a group picture. Please stand for
Okay, get them in the picture right quick. Take a picture with us. I think she gets it.
You can't see this, you can't see you. You okay with that? Okay. Smile. Now, what's the problem?
All right, we got 3, 1, 2, 3. One, two.
Anybody else?
Always snagged Sully on the way out. His ride failed on him. So we were coming out anyway, so we just went like that. Y'all going to any of the world rallies after that? One in Roswell and one in Piedmont Park. That's what Freedom Rally, worldwide Freedom Rally. Start at about 2 o'clock, they'll go till 6. But it's worldwide. I mean, they're happening everywhere, all over the world. Basically, it's a NASARA associated thing. Pretty good. I got the black car working. Still got a couple of leaks. I got the valve cover leak, and I noticed a little antifreeze dripping last night that I got to figure out. After I get the leaking finished, then I can drive around and tune it a little bit. Valve cover leaking as soon as I build boost, it pours oil out on the header, makes a big old flash. Plus, I got to get the air conditioner started. I got a leak somewhere. Put a vacuum on it because it was empty. So I think what I'm going to do is just replace all those rings and put it back together and put a vacuum on it and see if I like it. Otherwise, I have to charge it, put some of that UV shit in to go find out which one is leaking. That's a little more expensive because the R134 is expensive. There's a shit ton of little green so yeah, why not? Well, this one. Okay, everybody get back to the seat. Fun's over. Well, let's see, right back.
Now that we're back on the schedule, I'm glad to introduce a guy that I rooted for when he was running for Congress in the 7th district, and I'm glad to hear that he's making another run for it, because honestly, I think it's probably one the first time, but let's make sure we get our elections in order and then get it back in there. So please help me welcome Dr. Richard Foreman.
So this is an exciting time. I was watching what just happened here, and my favorite part of church is after church weekend. That's going to be the most time days on church. To share those ideas, to share who you are, what makes America great. We get to talk about the inspiration and the relationship that define who we are and this part of who we are. Those of you who don't know about me and my story, I literally lived the American dream. I grew up in a single-parent family where my mom was the secretary when she was a boy. I remember we went for about 5 years where she said we didn't have any red meat. I just remember having hot dogs and occasional can of Spam. I'm not sure that's considered red or not. Grew up, went to, I was going to go enlist in the Army. And I just, by the way, noticed we have all 4 services here. For those of you who haven't identified that they're all looking for office, you do have the Air Force. You have the Navy, you have the Army, of course, you have the United States Marine Corps. Okay, guys. So I was actually going to go to the Army at one time. I was in the airborne range, and I thought that was cool. And then I saw this movie called, and it transformed everything I was thinking about at the time. I was like, wow, how do you do that? It's got to go to college, right? So I only applied to one college. I literally left my college when I was 17 years old, so I went from going to boot camp instead of going to college. But everybody I met maybe obviously broken and depressed. Everybody who is just a little bit over the top, trying to be a little bit more motivated, a little more fit, a little more dedicated, a little more loyal. Those guys were all going, I want to be just like them. So we're giving them a little opportunity with about a 40% attrition rate. Go and win. Undergraduate picked up a scholarship. Then life got much easier for a guy who at one point in college was literally hand washing my clothes in the sink using shards of soap left over from other people in showers and then hang drying in my room. So a guy who had a scholarship who could actually afford it. And then I was able to go to Mountain Warfare School and become a pilot in the war for 16 years. Several tours over the combat zones in Africa, the Persian Gulf. I'm on the coast of Somalia, Iraq, Rwanda, and then was called to another job. When a guy calls you, you better pay attention because he has plans. It doesn't matter what you think you are, God defines you.
Man.
And sometimes when you think things are unachievable, get out of the way. Because if you're called to do it, it doesn't matter what your academic powers is, it doesn't matter what your physical powers is. It matters what God has defined you as and what He's going to do. Sometimes that's not exactly what you think it's going to be. But if you took a kid who grew up not really valuing education, understanding the value of grades, and said, he's going to be a doctor, and God, he doesn't even like to read books. I was literally told to become an emergency medicine doctor. And for a guy who doesn't even know what prerequisites were for medical school, to give up a JSOC, where I could work with some of the greatest guys in the world, to go to medical school, to try to save my family, keep together, and then ended up going to Morehouse School of Medicine, by the way. At this point, the sad part of the story is I became a single parent. I had 3 little boys. One of my little boys is 6'6" now. He's going to 3 before he gets it. He at the time was 5 years old, and my youngest was 2 years old. 3 little boys, a single parent. So I went to the nearest medical school I could accept to, Morehouse School of Medicine. Fairly close to where I studied, right? It's not a great drive, but I figured, well, this would be a good thing. It was a phenomenal. Let me tell you, at a school that's 60% female, 8% black, about 95% liberal, somehow or another, my senior year, just after President Obama was elected president of the United States, I was elected student body president.
All right.
Now, that wasn't based on my politics, obviously, but it's part of my statement, but on relationships. Of those authentic relationships that have nothing to do with politics. But one of the problems we have here in America right now, we keep on turning to politics and politicians to solve the problems that we have. That's not the way America's ever solved anything. As a matter of fact, if you want to solve the problem of racism, don't turn to the government to solve that. I promise you, they've got to just about everything else. Why don't you turn to them? But they're the ones that are dividing us. That's the problem. We keep on relying on the government to create opportunities for us. We, the people, are the ones who create the opportunities. We're the ones who are going to solve this problem. Not the government. So you can see that with critical race theory and everything else they're trying to do to actually divide and conquer and create the government as a savior for everything we do. So I learned a way of new type of leadership where it wasn't a way, it was a combined leadership role. It's where we actually come to an agreement, take a couple steps forward, a lot of times take a step back and reapproach problems. Sounds a lot like Congress stuff. And then when I graduated, I went back into the Navy this time, stepped towards the dark side. Still on the Marine Corps base, saving the Marines, and then my last combat tour over in Afghanistan as the head of emergency medicine. That was in 2016. In 2017, I retired, came back to Georgia. I was remarried by this time to a beautiful woman who's an oncologist. I now serve as an emergency medicine doctor, nighttime shifts in the ER, north side of the net, north side of the roof. I can see pretty much all of America's problems, whether it be your depression, your overdoses, your gunshot wounds, and everything else that's coming out of this pandemic. And you can see the hardships that people are facing. You can also see the drive government problems. You can see that when the government tries to solve things and says, I'm going to give you money, people stay home instead of going back to work. And those people who are in construction, those people who have businesses understand how hard it is to get an employee to come to work right now. But if you feel place to come to work, you got to interview, get registered, get the next paycheck, or none of it.
Because the government set that up. The government is not to our problems. If you think that we have an argument here that we're going to win, when it comes to talking about other nations, you compare the United States to other nations around the world. We can talk about Greece, we can talk about China, we can talk about Venezuela, talk about all these failed governments that have turned towards socialism to solve their problems and failed. I think there's better examples here, and I could read about one. California and New York, another, New York and the other one. If you want to see failed policies, and why we should not turn the government for our solution, compare and contrast Georgia and Florida to California and New York. Now, California and New York historically are two of the most successful states that ever existed in history. They've had more wealth, diversity, they have a great location, they have port systems, they have resources. They have this huge story of huge success and growth. And yet, for the first time in history, they're not shrinking by millions of people in population. Now, that counts the illegal immigrants that are moving to the states. They're still shrinking by millions of people to the point where they're both going to lose the congressional seat in the election, which is a good thing. But why are they shrinking? They still have resources, they still have businesses, they still have diversity, they still have topography. Why are they shrinking? There's only one reason they're shrinking, and that's the bad government. And they keep on doubling down on that bad government over and over and over again. One of the greatest things about the United States, because we are a republic, individual states that can actually decide their fate. We can compare and contrast those states that are successful versus those who are not. Those states that keep on going down and increasing regulation, increasing taxes, they are failing drastically. Businesses are moving out. Many years are moving out. Where are they coming to? Georgia, Florida, and Texas. We're seeing the economy boom here. We have the number one economy in the nation for a reason, because we become friendly, we become deregulated, not taxed our individuals. And you're seeing it even in the micropolitan right here in Georgia. Those counties that continue to rely on the people rather than the government to survive are flourishing. Retirement is flourishing. People are moving there in droves. The problem is people migrate and bring the socialist ideas. You've seen it in Gwinnett recently. We're seeing people move there and think, well, I want to try what just failed there, here. That's what this fight is all about. That's what we have to bring to the table when we have these arguments about what's good for America. Let's remember that. There's a poem that I think really defines what America's about. And how we've been so successful. And by the way, when we talk about success, I've been to at least 50 countries in the world. I've seen some really bad places and I've seen some really good places. But there is no place that's as successful as the many opportunities in America. And there is no place in this world where you can come from Africa, Nigeria, anywhere in Africa, or anywhere in South America, anywhere in Europe or the Far East. You can come here speaking a different language, have no family, no friends, no money, no connections, and within one generation be wildly successful beyond anybody in any of those other countries. That is what defines America, and that's what we're fighting for. And any of those Democrats who give you that false hope, we have to be more like Europe or more like any other country, we just don't get it. They're selling this false bill of goods that has kept minorities and immigrants down everywhere they've been in power. Look at every single state, every single municipality that is failing minorities, and it is always run by Democrats. That's why I want to see Republicans start leading us here in Georgia in the big cities, where I think the future of American politics is going to see a shift, where the Republican Party become increasingly more diverse and increasingly more invested in the opportunities for everybody. I don't care what your skin color is, your background, your gender, opportunities are for everyone. Versus an increasingly white socialist party of the socialist Democrats who are going to promise you nothing but government solutions that I feel the world will fail here too. So the poem I'm going to refer to is called The Oyster and the Eagle. I'm going to paraphrase here. Then I don't memorize. By the way, I love that radio speech about the messenger. By the way, I remember watching it recently. And one thing I can tell you right now, Reagan's quoted tons of times. I've seen Trump quoted tons of times. I can't imagine what kind of quote they're going to try to read with Biden.
Come on, man.
For the oyster and the eagle, think about the eagle, what it represents.
Eagle has to fly over miles and miles, hundreds of miles of rain, quarantine its field every single day. Building its nest up in the highest place where it's exposed to storms, winds, treachery. If it doesn't eat, if it doesn't kill, it dies. In order to become an eagle, you have to become a fledgling and fly. And a lot of eagles die, by the way. So they make it go good because treachery. Compare that to the oyster. The oyster sits there and attaches itself. Whenever it's hungry, it opens up itself. We rush in, and then when it gets in danger, it just closes up. The eagle, not the oyster, that represents the United States. Remember what we're about. Remember what defines us. What gives us historic opportunities you'll find nowhere else. Stick to that. I'm Dr. Richard Porter. I'm running for Congress. God bless you. God bless you.
Rich, that was a good analogy you made. Our next speaker is yet another veteran, and his story is one that I've also agreed with a lot. I agree with a lot. So it's going to be a tough break for me. But I'd like to introduce Lakeland Sadler.
Thank you, Cooper, for introducing me here and for hosting us and for what you do. It is a treat to be among so many young, courageous conservatives right now. In fact, 2 nights ago, I was with the Atlanta Young Republicans, and they informed me that I was still age eligible to join. So I joined them the night before last, and I guess before we kick off here, who's ready to beat Raphael Warnock next year? Woo! So folks, I'll give you a quick background on me, how I ended up in this crazy arena, and the way things look moving forward. I'm a proud son of Georgia. I was born right here in Atlanta, but my mom's from South Georgia, a small town called Bainbridge. We were actually just there 2 nights ago, and it was a blast to be back because I used to spend my summertime here. And I went to the University of Georgia, the Bulldogs in here. Go Dogs! And still I'm there. Some of y'all haven't even gone to college yet. I was having the time of my life. I mean, college is the best years of your life. And 9/11 happened while I was there. You never know what's going to happen in life, obviously. And it fundamentally changed my life forever. Because I didn't have plans to join the military before that. 9/11 ended up leading me down the pathway to serving in the military as a United States Navy SEAL. It was a long and circuitous journey to get there. But it was the best experience of my life. And so I worked after college, before the military, trying to make myself competitive. And this is a story I really want to share with all these young folks in here. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't do something, or you're not good enough to do something. Don't ever listen to that. Because I had a dream to serve in the SEAL teams, and I met a retired SEAL captain who was a very intimidating figure, and I told him what I wanted to do, and I will not use his language here, but he said, "You don't have a blank chance, son." He said, "There's about 10 officer spots across the country if you didn't go to the Naval Academy or ROTC, and you are not competitive." And I tell folks, at 22, I was a very confident young man, and that was like having a humble pie smashed in my face. It was the best feedback I'd ever received. And it led me on a 6-year journey to make myself competitive, to get selected by the Navy to become a SEAL. So I left New York after 2 years, came back to Georgia for grad school to go to Georgia Tech for a Master's in International Affairs. I learned Farsi and Dari, which is what they speak in Iran and Afghanistan. Got a scholarship to live in Tajikistan for a full academic year, 10 months with a local Muslim family. I'm a Christian, so as you can imagine, it was a neat opportunity to represent my faith. We ate on the floor every night on a rug, had food poisoning most of the time. It was horrible. Weighed about $150 by the end of it, but it was totally worth it. And before coming home, I ended up backpacking through Afghanistan and all the other states except for Pakistan. Came home 6 years after that conversation, got in the best shape of my life and put in my application to Navy, finally got selected. And y'all, they shipped me out to Coronado, California, where SEAL training is. And I was 28, about to turn 29, and I'm like a grandpa compared to these kids. I'm the oldest officer in my class. And I tell folks, I miraculously made it through. As a Georgia boy, I was not a natural in the water, so every underwater test was miserable. But the Lord led me through, and then I broke my foot in what's called Hell Week, and just miracle after miracle after miracle led me through that process. And what's amazing is because I spoke those languages, just to learn those languages to make myself competitive to get there, the Navy used the heck out of me as soon as I got pinned as a SEAL. So they immediately deployed me to Afghanistan. I came home and led a 25-man element in Iraq. And then at the end of 2016, I was out on some presidentially approved missions. President Trump, thank goodness, gets elected. And some folks on his national security team knew about my background, both as a SEAL and a huge foreign policy nerd. My wife will wake up at 3 in the morning and I'll be reading about China. She's like, please just go to bed. But I can't help it, the town wired. And they had me come interview at the White House. The next thing you know, they cut me 18-month orders to serve as the Director for Intelligence Programs on the National Security Council at the White House, managing the Black Ops portfolio. So there's a small set of missions that require the President's approval after the Secretary of Defense signs off on them. And I was that guy. After Secretary Mattis approved them, they'd come to my desk, and I'd vet them, and I'd just been out on these missions a few months prior. And then I'd recommend to the National Security Advisor whether or not President Trump should send the troops out to do quiet work for the country. So y'all, it's the honor of my life to serve in the Navy. I did 8 years active duty and 2 years reserve. Wanted to make a career out of it. And I transitioned out for family reasons. That's the other thing. I mean, one of these days, y'all are hopefully, Lord willing, all going to have families. And just remember to put your family first. I've got a unique blessing in my family. I've got a fraternal twin brother named Ashby who has Down syndrome. That's the most amazing human being you'll ever meet. He doesn't have the ability to see the flaws in others. He doesn't worry about all the other stuff we worry about. He's just a phenomenal human being. And he's going to come and live with my wife and I and our 2 boys. We have a 1-year-old boy and a 4-year-old boy. And the SEAL teams are gone 24/7. So I knew I needed to kiss my dream job goodbye and start a new career. And so I got asked to stay on board at the White House an additional year as a White House fellow. So I served the first 2.5 years in the Trump administration. But that final year, I was working on stuff that I did not have a background in. In fact, I was part of the team that got the First Step Act passed. The First Step Act was one of Trump's principal policy achievements. It was criminal justice reform. And in fact, I tell folks, my very first day, y'all, as a White House fellow, I'm in the Roosevelt room, and it's a meeting on criminal justice reform. And you have Jared Kushner on one end of the table. You have Van Jones of CNN, believe it or not, on the other end of the table. You had a Georgetown law professor who had done 10 years in his youth for robbing a bank, and now is a Georgetown law professor that works on criminal justice reform. And across from that dude, you have Kim Kardashian. And I remember thinking, where the heck am I? And I was in the middle of the White House in the Roosevelt room, but it was just neat to be a part of the way Washington is supposed to work. A bipartisan effort led by strong conservative leadership to get something tangible done for the country. Phenomenal experience. We were itching to come home to Georgia, and I joined the leadership team at Synovus Bank. Life is good. I'm there more as a dad, taking care of my family, and then 2020 happened. I think all of us as patriots can see right before our eyes that something is wrong with what's going on in our country. And as a national security guy, I think we face 2 simultaneous existential threats right now. One is the rise of communist China, and that is real. I got all the briefings in the Situation Room about what they're doing, but you don't even need to see the classified stuff. They are hungry, focused, and eager to supplant us. It's like we're asleep at the wheel sometimes here in Maryland. Oh, by the way, they're 4 times our size. The other existential threat we face right now, that's our 5-meter target. It's invading every aspect of our life, but it's the divisive woke movement that is tearing apart our country, trying to divide all of us, tear up our Constitution. And I tell folks, as conservatives, we've got to start winning on message. We can stand firm all day, every day, as it relates to our values, policy, but we've got to start winning the battleground on this. So I think we need to call this movement what it is. They like to call it wokeism. It's not wokeism. It's woke fascism. And the reason for that, the mindset of this movement is you will conform and you will obey. Otherwise, we will ruin your life, ruin your business, and ruin your family. Y'all, I didn't even know what doxing was until a handful of months ago, where they post your personal information online so the woke mob can come after you. And now, I mean, I'll tell you on the trail, I've had moderates come up, not just conservatives. Moderates come up to me and say, Waco, I'm afraid to express my real views now here in America. I'm worried the woke mob will come after me. And just as a patriot and someone that has had the honor of serving overseas, like some of you in here, that just cannot stand here in America. And I think that's the bad news, but the good news is all bet on America all day, every day. And I think the answer, you've heard a lot here today, is next generation authentic leadership. And it needs to be country first leaders. And I'll tell y'all, I mean, along the way, along the trail, I can tell you, it's really important for me to share this with this group. I was very self-conscious about my age entering this race. The youngest person that's raised by a good amount. I'm only 38 years old. I thought folks would say, Latham, you're not long enough in this United States Senate seat. And I thought that would be a weakness. But what I found, based on feedback every single day on the trail, is I could not have been more wrong about that. Folks come out to me every single day and say, Latham, especially from my parents' generation, right around 7, they say, Latham, you give us hope. We feel like the youth of this country is lost. We need not to hate the country and love socialism. Young buck patriot like you, you're our next United States Senator. Maybe you can re-inspire them and lead them back to loving the country. And on the opposite end of that spectrum, we have young folks like yourself in droves coming out to support our campaign. Because they say, Latham, we never do this as a party. Identify a young leader like you with your background, and you don't look like my grandpa. I've gotten that like a dozen times. And I say, well, by the end of this thing, I probably will. I'm already getting a lot more grades in my beard. My team calls it out every day. But the answer to the challenges in our country are next generation conservative leaders. Y'all, it's my hope with this campaign that we can bust open the gates for other country first next generation leaders to step up and serve their country. Y'all, the central tenets of our campaign are security, liberty, and prosperity. Simply put, we're going to defend the country, we're going to defend the Constitution, and we're going to defend the American economy. And on number 2, with liberty, won't go through all of them for the sake of time. Liberty, we're going to defend the Second Amendment and the First Amendment. Who would have thought that in this day and age, we have to worry about defending the First Amendment? Well, I can tell y'all, day 1 of my campaign, we were on Brett Baer, launched our campaign, our Twitter following starts taking off. That's crazy. Midway through the interview, Twitter shuts us down. Without any answer for 3 days. I mean, what a way to try to blunt the start of a conservative Senate campaign nationally. But that's okay, because we're here to fight. Georgia needs a fighter for this seat. We need a next generation fighter to be our next United States Senator. Folks, my top line is, I'm the country first, next generation conservative leader that with your help can and will be Brown Warnock. So I ask for your support. Come join the mission. You'll see all these shirts at LathamSadler.com. We've got so many young folks coming on board. Well, we've got room for all of you. God bless you. And let's go win this seat back for the country. Thank you so much.
We have another veteran also. In Walker County last week. We'll be away too, so I don't know what to do with this race. I'm excited to invite him up here.
Hello, County. Thanks, Cooper. Great example of young people here. I'm a Carl County boy. I feel like I'm at home. It's great to come back home. And more so than that, I'm here to compete for our Award. That's my #1 mission. I'm solely focused on born and raised right here in Georgia. I'm a proud military veteran. I'm an Air Force Academy graduate. I'm the owner of a successful construction company. So you may think, oh, that's a great thing. No, that's not. Well, that's my American dream. It's also my mother's American dream. Because it didn't start really easy. I was born to a 15-year-old mother in Macon, Georgia, 1974, a year after Roe versus Wade. You know what that means. They made the right decision. Thank you. My parents did marry, and when I was 8 years old, we moved up to Cobb County. And unfortunately, things went off the rails at that point. 2 years after we moved to Cobb County, my father started doing drugs. There was domestic violence, and he abandoned the family. And to this day, we're on our own. But you know what? God always has a plan.
Amen.
Always has a plan. And my grandmother stepped in, and God, thank you for the grandparents in this world. And she retired early from Rogers Air Force Base, worked at my house, and she helped keep the ends together. So my sister and I, my younger sister and I, we were able to stay focused, stay in school, make pretty good grades. I stayed in sports, and I was able to graduate from high school right here in Maryland in 1992 with honors. And I was able to get an appointment to the Air Force Academy. And at that point, my life changed. Because there I learned about something really special called meritocracy. Essentially, the more you do, the better you do, the more credit you get. You earn your merit. That's the same thing that America is about. And while I was thinking, I played football there. I was a long-time football player. And I also started studying some stuff on the side. I started reading about American history and Black history. And my family was Democrat growing up, like most Black families are. But as I read more and more about Black American history, I kind of fell into this whole, I like Booker T. Washington principle. I like George Washington Carver's principle. I'm thinking, hey, wait, I was taught conservative principles growing up, and they voted Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
It was just inconsistent. So at that point, I knew that I was a Republican. And from that point on, I voted Republican. So I've been a Republican for 25 years. After graduation, my job in the Air Force was in contract. Essentially, I spent the government's money. I mean, it may sound fun, but there's a lot of rules attached to that. In fact, if I bought something incorrectly, I could be in prison. And I actually know someone that was in prison, by the way. But that's when I learned a lot about government, procurement, allocation of funds, the color of money. But, I still wanted to do something else. So after I proudly served in the Air Force, I decided to separate and go to corporate America. That was part of my dream. In corporate America, I worked for a couple of international firms, and eventually started my own construction company 9 years ago from scratch. My grandmother always told me some certain lessons. Like I said, they were very conservative. She taught me, boy, always do your car payment. And what that means is, when you're young and you choose to go that route of buying a car or financing a car, always pay your car payment even after you finish paying it off. Because you learn to live without that money. So you keep paying that money out to yourself. And once you're good enough money by your next vehicle, you buy it cash. So I know it sounds like a simple strategy, but these simple strategies are solid principles. Living below your means. I was taught that way. And I actually implemented that in my own life to start my own company. Which I started from scratch with $100,000 and saved up after a couple of years. I started in my bedroom of my house, and I was successful enough that first year to make enough money to move all the way to my basement. And in my basement, I grew my company to a multi-million-dollar construction firm. And now I own a building over by the Braves Stadium on Powell Ferry right now. That's where we currently operate. And I say that not to brag. I mean, we can all do this. This is my American dream. I'm an example of it. It's my mother's American. And that is the theme of our campaign, is we want to protect and preserve the American dream, because it's real. It is obtainable to every single person in here. Now, it's not easy, it comes with challenge, but you don't, what do you do when you face a challenge? You work, you overcome a challenge. You jump into the next, I know you're gonna face challenges. I wouldn't want to trade places with you to be frank, because your lives are exposed to the public nowadays. We didn't have this when I was growing up. Your daily life is exposed to the public, and you can be counseled just as quickly as you see the council culture going on right now across America. And it's not okay, it's not right. But you work through it. My old college coach, his name was Christian Berry. One thing he used to tell us, he said, men, you have to learn how to work through adversity. And I say that because that impacted me. When I was 18 to 22, I didn't necessarily know how to work through adversity. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't face the real adversity challenges that were coming my way. But I had a son when I was a teenager. I was a teen father. So, you know, my father wasn't around. We didn't have much of resources. I fathered a child. There wasn't a lot going for me other than love, grit, and God's grace.
Amen.
And God's grace is good. Because if you spend your child's life like I did over time, there's lots of challenges. You create that relationship. And I've changed the cycle of my lineage. Because my son is a solid guy, he's an Air Force veteran, he's going to take over my company once I win this U.S. citizen. But let's talk about post my construction company. I met my wife a few years back, and we've been really involved in Republican politics. Like I said, I've been in politics for 25 years. She's been out in grassroots for over 10 years. We've been involved in lots of campaigns. I was on Senator Purdue's steering committee. My wife was the co-chair for the leftist campaign. But we got a chance to see that race up close and personal. And when they lost those 2 Senate seats, we knew that was our opportunity to step up to the plate, take these seats back. Because we knew that the American dream was at risk and it was threatened. And that's when we developed what we call our 3 tenets that comprise what the American dream is all about. It's freedom, it's opportunity, and it's American exceptionalism. And I will fight for my life to defend those tenets of the American dream. Because I want to make sure that all the young people here have that themselves and their children and future generations. In our campaign, we have a platform. We have 3 items on our platform. And these 3 items, they develop the environment for the American dream to thrive and to manifest. That is, making sure that our economy remains strong through smart tax policy, through free market principles, and through controlled spending. Those are essential for a strong economy. And I know because I know that the American person did no work. I know that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act worked a couple of years ago because every single one of our employees, they had more take-home pay in their wallets based on that tax policy. That stimulated the economy. In 2019, the economy was running. And we benefited from it. And that's the experience I bring to this race. The second platform item is making sure that we prioritize our national security. That means that we secure our borders. That means that our military members, while they're in service, that they're focused on defending the country, not being social justice warriors, but being military warriors. Even right now at the Air Force Academy, I'm sure folks have aspirations to attend the academy in here. At least I hope so. We have instructors that are teaching CRT in our poli-sci department, social science department. Also at West Point, we have instructors teaching critical race theory. As a military member, we know that that is not in line with the goals of the military. Military is about unit cohesion and good order and discipline. CRT is about division, it's anti-American. It's about oppressed versus oppressor. That has nothing to do with America, and it has nothing to do with American military. We need strong politicians with backbone who speak up, slip it out, call it out, and pass legislation and policy that gets rid of that type of divisive teaching. Because it's eroding us from the inside. And we need to make sure we take care of our military veterans as they transition from active service to the civilian sector. I'm a military veteran. I know that our VA process needs some work, and I have lots of ideas on how to improve that. And my third platform item is that we have to make sure that our constitutional rights are protected. Currently, they're under attack. I'm very concerned. I know parents are very concerned. I know the young folks are very concerned because our First Amendment right is under attack. We have big tech colluding with the Biden administration to censor us. I've been censored. I know my wife has been censored. And it's not right. It's not fair. It's not even American. I should be able to defend, debate, disagree with anybody I want to disagree with. And the second constitutional item that is under attack is our Second Amendment. I'm going to conflate two things, right? Our Second Amendment obviously is our right to bear arms. But it's also our right to life. You see, if I can't defend and protect my life, I don't have liberty. I don't have freedom. So our constitutional principles, what's undergirded is our right to life. So being able to protect my life is something that's my God given right, not a government given right. The Constitution just protects my God given right to protect myself. That's under attack currently. And we need people that's bold enough to call that out and say, no, no more. You see, my opponent, Reverend Warnock, although he's from Georgia, he doesn't represent our Georgia values. He's not pro-business. He's not even pro-life. He's a pastor that's not pro-life.
Yeah.
That's beyond me. I can't even fathom how to explain that to my congregation without it. So what we need to do right now is we need to look at them as who they are. They're dividers of our government. They're dividers of our people. They're dividers of our country. We need to call them out and get them out of there. There's woke corporations and this council culture is a cancer in our country. And there's one thing that I love that came out of our campaign. That is, we want to uncouncil America and be proud of who we are. Be proud of who we are as Americans. So I ask that you all stand with me, stand with my campaign, and stand up for America. Go to kelvinking.com and check us out. Because this is a movement. It's a movement that's a pro-American movement. It's a movement that's a pro-Georgia movement. Because we're going to win for Georgia. We're going to win back our majority in the Senate. We're going to win for America. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Good. So that concludes it for our speakers. I do want to say